Scott? Yes. Okay. So I think we're ready to call the meeting to order at 1 o'clock here on September 3rd, Wednesday. Let me get my paper. Oh. Okay, we have a First Nation recognition, and of course, today we're meeting on the traditional territories of the Sooke and Shannon First Nations. And it's worth noting that the official opening of the Sooke Community Complex and Health Center is on Monday, September 15th. And that same evening, there will be a special community dialogue and film screening in the MCS Theater. And this is the first in a series of reconciliation events that our Catherine Strongwind has helped organize or initiated, leading up to National Day of Truth and Reconciliation on September 30th. And Catherine, I hope you'll tell us more about this in the roundtable. Okay. All right. So approval of the agenda. So moved, but I am going to add something. I think we get it on the floor. Okay. So I would like to add an item 6 to the agenda, which is as follows. Hold on here.
Pardon me, Chair?
Yes.
It'll be item 8.
And item 8. Okay.
Thank you.
And the item 8 will be a discussion of how this committee raises motions and how we, whether they're arising motions or notices of motion. And I'll throw the mic over to Nancy to give us an update on her thinking on how we can progress with getting clarity about these matters. So that'll be item 8 on the agenda. Yeah, okay, so we have a motion moved, seconded by Councillor Beddoes, all approved. That is good, thank you. Too much paper here. Okay, so we'll move into adoption of the minutes. Item 4.1, can I have a motion, please?
Pardon?
Councillor St. Pierre.
Pardon, Chair?
Hello?
My apologies. We still need to approve the agenda as amended. My apologies. I thought that was just to add an item. My apologies. Carry on.
Done due process there. Thank you. So do you need a motion now to?
That was a motion to add an item
Yeah.
to the agenda. And
Yeah.
now if we
Now
could
we
just
need a
do
motion
a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Thank you. So
Thank you.
Councillor St. Pierre and Beddoes in that order. Thank you. And all approved, please. Okay, thanks. So we've now had adoption of minutes. That's where we're at this point. Can I have adoption of the minutes for July 29th, please? Councillor St. Pierre, Councillor Beddoes, all approved? Yes. Oh, public question and comment period. 2 people in their audience today, shaking of heads. Maybe next month for the, okay. Thank you. To reports, item 6. Sooke River Bridge. I think Ms. Mogg will speak to this.
Thank you, Chair. You got it. So this item builds on a previous committee recommendation and some further follow-up in discussion with Member Strongwind. It looks to build on the previously identified letter of support for the Sooke River Bridge renewal. Originally focused on bridge aesthetics, the recommendation has been refined to also acknowledge the cultural significance of the site and the opportunity for truth and reconciliation should the Sooke Nation wish to participate. While the bridge is owned and maintained by the Ministry of Transportation and Transit, this letter, the refined version, should the committee support this recommendation, would encourage the province to consider painting and renewing the bridge, highlight it as an opportunity to support reconciliation if welcomed by our local nation, and also express the district's support for this collaboration. It is important to note that this is not a district-led project and there are no financial implications to the district in issuing the letter. Excuse me. However, it helps communicate this site of significance and a place of meaning in our community. If the ministry moves forward with the renewal, the district could also explore supportive roles in coordination with the Sooke Nation if they desire. The recommendation before you reflects this refined, respectful approach and is aligned with the district's statement of reconciliation and the committee's mandate.
Thank you very much for initiating this. Yeah, I will, I'll just make a comment here. Thank you for initiating this report. I think under my understanding of motions arising from this committee, they were to go to council first and then we might have got the report. But thank you very much for bringing this forward proactively. Now, questions or comments? Questions first of staff?
I have a comment.
Okay, Councillor Beddoes will have a comment and then St. Pierre will speak.
I have a lot of trouble with this motion. What are we trying to accomplish here? My understanding when this committee sat, we were trying to accomplish getting the bridge painted because it's a mess. So putting all this other stuff in there just clutters the issue. What are we trying to do here? We're trying to get the bridge painted. Simple as that. It's the MOTT's responsibility to paint the bridge. And I think, I mean, I'm all great for reconciliation. We work for the Sooke Nation, have for many years on a regular basis. To throw that in there, just, I don't know, it just clouds the issue. And offering different support for the project. When you make a motion like that, it sounds to me like we could be on the hook for some money. I think I like things simple. What do we want to do? We want to accomplish, we want to get the bridge painted. Whose responsibility is to paint the bridge? MOTT. The rest of it just clutters it up. So I can't support this motion the way it sits.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Beddoes. I'd suggest that this project is about much more than painting the bridge. It's about us, but I'll allow Councillor Member Strongwind perhaps to respond to Councillor Beddoes.
I don't know.
Okay, Councillor. No, I'm asking you to speak.
Okay, I don't agree. I think that initially the beautification plan for the bridge came forward as supporting economic development, tourism, those kind of pieces. However, when we started talking about it, including Sooke Nation as a partner is an opportunity for the District of Sooke to strengthen that relationship by perhaps naming the bridge a Sooke Nation name if they choose to participate, and also choosing the color that is significant to Sooke Nation. So that was the intent behind including the opportunity to partner with Sooke Nation. So it doesn't detract from the original plan, it's enhanced by offering that opportunity to Sooke Nation. If they choose to participate, they may not, but it's really up to them to decide.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, you may.
I understand where you're going with this, but we're not here about naming the bridge. We're here about getting the bridge painted for aesthetics reason. We can't tell the MOTT what color to paint the bridge because they have their own codes for what they need to paint the bridge. You know, that's part of their own, you know, our staff can probably back me up on that. So I don't know, it seems to me it's a little bit hijacked here. I don't want to send a negative message to the First Nations in Sooke here, but I don't think we're just asking for the bridge to be painted. It's just pretty simple. And if we cloud it up, and if they feel that it's going to get complicated, they won't do it. Just paint the damn bridge. That's what we want. So, I mean, I think we have lots of opportunities to work with the First Nations we do on a regular basis, but let's not throw everything into this. It's a simple request, paint the bridge. It's a mess. So I still can't support it.
Yeah, so I think as the staff report states, it's much more than a simple matter of painting the bridge. The district over the years has written the ministry seeking improvements to that bridge. I think the latest I heard was that the message is it's a perfectly functional bridge and we've got other matters to pursue. So this particular approach rooted in reconciliation and engagement with to local governments in a very respectful, culturally significant way would be a way to get the ministry to actually pay attention to the bridge.
I disagree.
Okay, that's fine. Okay,
My original, this is my original impression, uh, that the ministry has already stated that it's low on their priorities and they don't intend to paint it anytime soon. This seems to be an opportunity to at least have them re-examine a new proposal. I don't actually see it as complicating anything, because if you look at the further reports, we're looking at the Wandafuka corridor, we're looking at tourism initiatives that include the First Nations that would want to highlight, culture and so on and so forth. This feeds into the CDC. It actually aligns various priorities in terms of our ACDEV plan with what's intended with the Wandafuka corridor, and might actually get us some dollars to do the bridge sooner rather than later. So it just seems to make sense. The complexities, that's for the province to deal with, to be perfectly honest. As you said, it's their bridge. It's for them to deal with how to change their color palette. It's for them to deal with whether or not they want to engage with the Sooke, and it's for the Sooke to decide whether or not they want to engage with the process at all. Our job is to try and reopen the possibility to get the bridge painted, and right now it's a dead end. So unless we want to keep on going at the dead end, this is at least an avenue forward.
further comments? Scott Taylor?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with all those points. I don't think number 3 necessarily needs to be in there either. I don't think it's necessarily a district support project, but I do want to identify that I think if we strengthen, as you were mentioning, I think if we strengthen our relationship with the Sooke Nation, that is part of economic development, not only for us, but for them. And I think one of the key components that I've ever identified in this community that will help the nation would be to get into things like tourism and actively get into maybe even adventure tourism. It's a great industry that I think they can belong in and really excel at. So looking at this from a economic development standpoint, I would just think the strengthening of that relationship would be part of that ECDEV component that we're looking for in terms of why are we painting the bridge? Why is it even part of an economic development committee discussion? And I think that's where we can identify just having a stronger relationship in our community with the Sooke Nation. I think would just strengthen everybody's business in this community. So I would, support it.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting that the mayor has spoken a number of times about how a vividly painted bridge would become a signature statement on the island. People would drive out to cross that bridge between worlds, between the Sooke and Sooke nations. I had a question. Any further comments, questions? Gwen Fisher.
I support this. I don't think I need to get into too much detail, but I support this. I think it's a great way to bridge relationships. And if we can add some of their personality, like more character, like identifying that we are on, I think it would be beautiful. And it is another approach. I think why not, like you were saying. Yeah, I agree with it.
I have a question through me to staff. The question is, would we consult with the Sooke first and then consider sending this letter, or?
I think that would be most appropriate, and coincidentally, sheer coincidence, I'm actually meeting with some representatives tomorrow, so. Yeah.
That's a valid point. I'm curious, this will be a recommendation from this committee to council. So council will look at it in the consent agenda, perhaps on Monday, as early as Monday. No, it'll be 2 weeks hence. So that's a consideration. Councillor St. Pierre.
As I understand, your concern is actually dealt with in the language in point number 2. So it identifies the project as a meaningful opportunity to support truth and reconciliation should the Sauk Nation wish to participate. So it doesn't say they're participating. It simply says that at this moment in time, if we were to write a letter, we would be outlining that we would like the Sauk to participate and we would do so in a respectful manner. So it doesn't require that we have their agreement. It says that we would like to engage in a respectful dialogue to see if they'd like to participate.
Hey, Councillor Bennis.
We're not sending the letter to the Sooke Nation. We're sending it to MOTT. And to me, it would behoove us, if we're going to go through with this, that you consult the First Nations first before you use their name in anything in a letter that we're sending. I've been working with this reconciliation now for 2 terms. And one thing I have learned is when you do something like this without them knowing about it, it upsets some of them. So to me, it would make sense. How pressing matter is it? I mean, the bridge is being like it is. You best get your ducks in a row and get them on board before you write the letter. I mean, sorry, that's just from my experience, it will be upsetting to them. Table it.
Through me to Christina.
Sorry.
Going to first names henceforth.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to apologize because I certainly did speak out of line. It would be premature for me to bring this item up during another meeting tomorrow, but I think it also speaks to the regular dialogue that we do have with the Sooke Nation. So I just wanted to publicly apologize that would be premature for me to bring this up specifically without receiving a council resolution. So I just want to acknowledge that and take accountability for that error. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not clear of what's going on here. So we're going to go back to passing this motion, or are we going to consult first? I hear from Ms. Mogg that it's premature for her to consult unless she gets a directive from the district. Is that correct? I hear that right?
Because this resolution would need to rise from to council. So I'm just saying in the specific context of the discussion tomorrow, this is not something that I would be bringing up at that time until I receive direction through council. So I just wanted to clarify that, and I apologize for the confusion.
I didn't hear that. Okay.
Would you bring it up in casual conversation that this committee has been discussing this idea? This isn't public, isn't it?
It is. So if it were to come up or they were to raise it, I'd certainly respond about the process and communicate the process as we've had in this conversation today.
You do not. Okay. Read it into the record, please.
That the CDC committee recommend that council direct staff to write a letter to the Ministry of Transportation and Transit acknowledging the ministry's responsibility for the Sooke River Bridge and encouraging the ministry to paint or renew the Sooke River Bridge, identifying the project as a meaningful opportunity to support truth and reconciliation should the Sauk Nation wish to participate, and offering the district support for the project. Okay.
Can I have a seconder for that motion? Catherine Strongwind has seconded. So motivation, please.
Okay, whether this passes or gets defeated, that's fine. I just would like something that we can actually discuss and move forward or not on, because right now we're actually just spinning wheels, and that's
believe so, but carry on.
and so yeah. So as it stands, I think that we could move forward as is. We could change the language. I think identifying the project as a meaningful opportunity to the province, that can simply happen, and then it's up to the province to do what they want. I don't think that this actually is disrespectful, and I do think that we could move forward as is, and then it's up to council, because keeping in mind, this is actually a committee recommendation to council. This can be further debated in a regular council meeting. It could be pulled from the consent agenda. It can be discussed further. So I'd rather move forward, and I'd rather move forward to council at this point in time. I think the points that Councillor Beddoes has brought up are excellent and valid, but I would like this to move forward.
Okay, Catherine? No, Catherine's fine.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I honestly, identifying the project as a meaningful opportunity to support truth and reconciliation. I honestly don't see what the painting the bridge has to do with truth and reconciliation. And I heard Scott mention about offering different district support for the project could be misconstrued I'm not putting words in your mouth. This is my offering the district support for the project. That can also, unless it's spelled out very clear and it's not in this motion, could mean financial. Maybe they'd want to do a cost sharing, and I'm not prepared as a council to do that. So I think this motion is badly worded, and I, again, won't support it.
Whoops. Through Christina, in your report, is there a mention of how the district would support the project potentially? I can't recall this.
So in the financial implications section, I did identify that since this is a ministry owned, I'm just going to read it verbatim, just so we're all sort of singing from the same song sheet, so to speak. So there are no immediate financial implications associated with sending the letter, but since this is a ministry owned asset, any infrastructure renewal, repainting or enhancement costs would fall under the responsibility of the province. Should cultural components be considered and the ministry wish to collaborate with the district and the Sooke Nation, staff could explore supportive funding opportunities, including grants or MRDT contributions where appropriate. So at this stage, it's not something staff would suggest through general property taxation, but there are those alternative streams. Another stream that could be available, should it be the desire of council, is the Sooke program of the arts. So there's alternative funding sources for those cultural components, should that be within the scope of the project, if it were to proceed.
All right, further comments at all? I'll just close off by saying I'll vote in favor of this. Council will have an opportunity in 2 weeks' time to pull it from the consent agenda and debate it further with the involvement of Councillor Pearson and Haldane and McMath and the mayor. And yeah, I'll be interested to see. I know on the night I will suggest that CCs go out to our MLA, to the Premier, to the Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation, and that Sooke, and its desire to be a model reconciliation community, this is a really, could be a very significant, if it was painted perhaps orange, but this is to be discussed potentially with the Sooke. So on that note, let's vote on this, please. All in favor? And opposed? Councillor Beddoes is opposed. And that's carried. Is that, do we use the word carried if it's not unanimous? Yes, okay, carried. Good debate, thank you. So we're moving on to item, it says 5.2, but it's actually 6.2. Appointment of committee designate to the Sooke Region Food Systems Network. Christina.
Thank you. So this item recommends the appointment of a committee member to serve as the district's designate to the Sooke Region Food Systems Network, a community-led initiative focused on strengthening local food security and building a resilient, inclusive food system. The recommendation includes the following. It recognizes the alignment between the network's work and the district's strategic plan and the community economic development strategy, responds to the network's interest in a stronger municipal connection, and ensures a community economic development lens is present in ongoing discussions. The designate would attend quarterly meetings and provide updates back to this committee. The role complements existing new staff. I've attended my first meeting recently in July, and supports coordination between community-led efforts and municipal economic priorities. There are no financial implications associated with the appointment, and it offers a practical, relationship-based way to advance food security and economic development goals. The recommendation is before you to formalize this role and ensure continued collaboration. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah. Councillor St. Pierre, you were at the July 30th meeting. Would you like to share any thoughts at this point? I know this group has been close to you for a while now.
Certainly. What the group represents is basically a group of food systems expert in the local area. As such, they're basically an ad hoc sort of food policy council. And that type of a group is basically a group that has expertise that can be shared with local governments in terms of shaping policy when that expertise is needed. So our staff doesn't have food systems expertise. And if we were wanting to get information on how to shape a policy to improve our food systems, we would have to basically get consultants or go outside. Generally, a group like this can help out. Historically, though, these groups have struggled because they don't have any funding. There's nothing to maintain them. They don't have staff, all the rest of those good things. all the things that basically make NGO life hell. By actually associating with the district, they automatically get a certain amount of staff support simply by having our staff person there to take minutes. And if there's anything that comes forward, that could be brought forward to, our committee or another committee for consideration. Our ag planet is in dire need of renewal and revisiting. This is the kind of group that could do this in a relationship. These types of bodies generally do well if they haven't elected, because there's generally a decision to be made and there needs to be a champion for this sort of thing. Otherwise, nothing really happens. So this provides essentially something that our 2018 Climate Action Plan had asked for, which is a Food Policy Council analog for the first time. And it's very exciting because it comes in conjunction with the work with CDC, with economic development. And there's a lot of interesting things happening with all of that, including, well, we could talk about this some other time, but that's basically the nut of it. And I can answer questions if anybody has any.
Thank you. Questions of staff or Councillor St. Pierre? Tony, as we're now referring to our members. No questions. So we have a motion on the floor. I'd like to make this. Oh, no, corporate officer.
My apologies. We haven't actually put the motion on the floor as of yet.
No, exactly. So about to put the motion. I'd be happy to make this recommendation that council appoint Councillor Tony St. Pierre as the District of Sooke's designate to the Sooke Region Food Systems Network in recognition of the network's alignment with the District of Sooke's strategic plan, community economic development strategy and action plan, and the committee's mandates, and that the designate provide quarterly updates on the activities and outcomes of the Sooke Region Food Systems Network to the Community Economic Development Committee. So that's moved. Seconded by Gwen Fisher. Any for? I'll add. What's the word? Motivate, and just say Councillor St. Pierre has it is the linchpin on this council for agricultural activities as a individual dedicated at Cast Iron Farm to regenerative agriculture and growing our food shed dramatically. So absolutely the right person for this. And I do think it's important that we've now got this formal connection with the district. That agricultural plan dates to 2012 and it has sat on a shelf. And finding ways to support the work of Food Chi and others is critical. So I think this policy council, and Tony also has done work over the last number of years with consulting with other food policy councils and also on the Farm Hamlet project, to which he will be leading a council delegation at UBCM to discuss how it's evolving. So I think Tony is the right man in the right time. Okay.
I would also like to mention that this will allow Sooke Pucci and this group to potentially access funding opportunities supported by the district, which is extraordinarily important to them. So this is a really good partnership, and I'm really pleased that this has been brought forward.
Yeah, I'd certainly like to comment on it. I think this is a good idea. I know there's been some activity with using a food hub as an economic driver of this area, and I know I went down to meet with Alan Lures at the efficient plant that we were looking at. I wasn't available for the second visit. I assume it went on. And that has a lot of potential looking at that area down there for a food hub. Now, a food hub, if Tony and his group can sort of make that happen, that food hub would bring in work from all over the area because that's the nature of the food hub. So I support having a representative, and I support Tony being that representative.
Gwen?
Can you explain the food hub?
Yeah. Went out to Port Alberni.
Yeah, food hub. There's a lot of smaller entrepreneurs in your community that would, I guess, be supported by like a community kitchen doesn't necessarily have to be a community kitchen. It's more than that. But what happens is there may be somebody that needs to use it once every 2 weeks to bottle all their, say perfume, I don't know, could be fish products, it could be animals, it could be anything. And the idea of a food hub is that the different groups would rent this space out. It would have all the equipment you needed. We went up to Port Alberni and we had a look at one up there and it was fantastic. They had, for somebody that's just has a small mom and pop, maybe 50, 60,000 a year, they can go down there, rent all this equipment that they don't have to buy. And then but you do need some anchors. It's more to it than that. But the whole idea is that the local businesses, and I forget how many there is in Sooke that have businesses out of their home, hundreds actually, and the region. And I believe when I was down there, there was one fella. I mean, this is a fairly big, they want 2.2 million for it too, by the way. But it's set up as a fish plant and smoking and ovens and everything else in there. But one fellow was looking at processing rabbits, and he can sell every rabbit that he can produce, but he has to have a place that he can deal with these animals. So I'm really excited. Every time we went to that food hub in Port Alberni, it's amazing. So yeah, it's like a co-op. Yeah, somebody, I can't, maybe Gail can explain it a little bit better than I did. But basically, it's everybody sharing a facility. And, if you're there for one day every 2 weeks, then you pay X number of dollars for that equipment. And it's better than buying it yourself. So.
Tony, you might want to speak about there's one in Esquimalt, I believe, and the ministry does fund these operations. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to borrow from the tour from Mr. Mooney, who was incredible in terms of sharing his expertise. So what he described were the advantages of basically aggregation, bringing together, like all the fruit, all the whatever. There's not necessarily one farm or one small producer, especially with the small acreage we have in Sooke, to, juicing apples or whatever. But you bring it all together and you can get a serious production line going, maybe use some of the bigger equipment, which is now actually something that you can afford to use. You can actually share HR resources. So you might not have a job for one person, but just like Al was saying, if you have a kitchen that's working, that person working in the kitchen could work for that company, that company, that company, and that company. And all of a sudden you have a full-time job out of an aggregation of small-time jobs. You've got synergies in terms of marketing, and he was very pointed on the advantages of marketing. So if you have an array of diversified products you can bring to the grocery store, and you can say, we have all of these things, and then the one person that has a relationship with that grocery store and with all the other grocery stores can actually leverage all that into really moving the product out, which is not something the one small grower can do. So a food hub basically allows food production to start becoming profitable. And as it stands, food production is not profitable. I can tell you right now, it's just not. So this type of thing could be a game changer. We have producers already in Sooke, but this could potentially be a regional asset, bringing in a lot of different, companies, and just to make best and maximum use of the facility. And it really could make a huge difference to Sooke in terms of employment, in terms of food security, and so on.
And we do, Scott.
Yeah, I think this is an amazing idea for Sooke, and I was just thinking, I don't know if you've approached maybe to pilot project it to see sort of market research, if you've approached like any of the restaurants like myself that may have space at certain times we're not using our kitchens, to sort of build that market that you're talking about and get all those operators together and start to see if it would make sense for us to have that facility. That might be a way of starting. I don't know if there would be interest there, but maybe there's a conversation to be had there. And then I know I was looking for a different project that Gail and I are talking about, this cross-border thing, but those trailers, Gail, that are, I think, out in Sooke still, that I was talking to the gentleman about it for a different project that we had, and they had mentioned that there's a full commercial kitchen in these things. And I've never been there to actually see them inside, but I saw the outside of them. And maybe there's something there that can happen with those trailers that they got out there, because supposedly they're quite nice with brand new commercial kitchens inside of them. So
2 of the units have commercial kitchens.
Yeah.
And the rest are classrooms.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were there to support, I guess, the whole.
Yeah.
So.
Tony?
Just one further detail, but is it we have a report from a group, including a fellow by the name of Kevin Nago. I can't pronounce his name properly, so that's what I'm going with. But basically, they have a high-level business plan for a co-op on that particular site. And there's a number of reasons why that particular site is appealing. First of all, it was actually brought up to code in every way possible around 2022. So there's no, like, basically it's turnkey. They have all the power, all the drains. It's already a commercial kitchen that could be subdivided into multiple operations, designed in that way. Hose it down, let it drain through the floor grates, loading, unloading. It is good to go. And they have, as I was saying, a high-level business plan that personally I would like to see them continue doing some more in-depth work, because they had next steps, and the next steps were things like nailing down some initial anchor tenants, working on all the various pieces. I think it's premature for me to bring that, for this to be brought forward at this particular meeting, but I think there's excellent potential to potentially work with that particular group, the people who did the original report, and see whether or not we can actually support in some manner the creation of a food hub, maybe going after dollars from the ministry once we have something more tangible on paper. I don't know. I think we're just getting ahead of ourselves. Right now, we're just trying to finish this, but this could be a further motion later.
Okay. And it's worth noting that Kira Sella is part of this food systems network, and she runs the South Island Farm Hub in Esquimalt, I think it is. So again, expertise gathered around this table. Okay, so we have, this motion is on the floor now, moved and seconded, and we're going to vote on it. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Over to Mr. Marshall for a draft community plan update. I did request this, and we've been given the full package. The full Monty is here, including the report that the Land Use Committee received back in July, I think modified somewhat. And with, at the very end, there is a reference to some of the areas that this committee would be particularly interested in. And the point today is not to come up with fresh ideas, but to inspire you to participate and engage and be ambassadors about this, if indeed you support the official community plan, about those particular areas of agriculture and food systems, community economic development, arts and culture, recreation, community spaces, and equitable community, all of which fall under our very broad mandate. So Chris, having said all that, away you go.
Yeah, thank you. This is obviously a big topic to go over with the committee, but I'll do my best to just provide you with a sense of where we came from, where we are today, what the next steps are, and ultimately we're looking to adopt this by the end of the year. That's the marching orders we've been given by the province. So just to provide you with a bit of background, so this particular official community plan, draft official community plan was initiated in June of 2020. As you can see in phase 4, they did get first reading, second reading. They went through a public hearing. There were a number of public input that was provided during that process. And so what we were given as our kind of marching orders as staff was to, and this was from the January 27th, 2025 council meeting, in which we presented a proposal for how to take this draft plan that had kind of dropped back in 2023 and bring it back up onto the table and take a look at what had previously been done and get it over the finish line. So it was a unanimous decision of council to follow the work plan that we recommended. And we've hired Urban Systems to help us with this work, primarily the engagement work that we'll be undergoing over the next couple of weeks. So they're helping with, the boards for the open houses. They're going to be writing a summary report of all of the engagement information that is provided. They're going to be doing a report back to council that is entitled "What We Learned," I think is what the title of the report will be. So what was all the information, all the input that was provided during the consultation process, both back in 2022, but also more recently in this next round of public engagement. Our marching orders from council was not to start from scratch, you know, and take the whole official community plan back to square one, but to work with the draft that we had in place as of 2022 and bring it again over the finish line. So in order to, because we have a Bill 44, which required that a number of the housing legislation be put into our official community plan, and that has a deadline of the end of the year. We thought this would be a good thing to tie the two together, provide an end date for the update, but also to provide the legislative requirements that that provinces put on us. So in terms of the official community plan itself, it's broken down into a number of parts. The first part is basically an overview of what an official community plan is, the role and legal authority of the official community plan, a summary of proposed changes, updated statistics. So the first section is kind of a background and overview. The next section is the overarching goals. There was a desire to reach GHG reduction targets to be, I believe it was 40% by 2030 and 100% by 2050 reductions in greenhouse gases. And so a lot of the official community plan, this draft, is implementing that goal as one of the goals. In section 3, there is an overview of the long-term growth strategy, highest growth in around the town center, land use map, and the types of changes. So throughout the document, we've done a red line document of the official community plan, the draft. That red line document is looking at all of the changes that were requested as part of the original public hearing back in 2022 and that engagement work. It includes the legislative changes for Bill 44, and it will, in the future, include any additional comments that we receive per our next round of public engagement. So I believe, attach a link to that, or that report is attached. That red line version of the official community plan is attached, so you can see where we have tried to incorporate the changes. So for instance, one of the comments was that some of the language of the official community plan was over prescriptive. So thou shalt do this. And so now we've softened it with encourage and, you know, words that are not so mandatory. There was talk of the official community plan not being it being hard to read, and so there's been a number of editorial changes to try and incorporate that. I think there was talk of it being too long and that they would like to see it shortened. But I think if you go through it yourself, you'll see there's a lot of pages where there's 1 or 2 points on the whole page, you know, so, and in order to make it readable and easier rather than this very dense, wordy document, they kind of spread the words out and just a couple of points for each page. And so I think if you were to consolidate the document into a regular kind of almost report, it would be half the size. And so I think it sort of depends on whether you want it to be more readable and easier to understand and longer, or you want to compact it into a shorter document and it be very dense and maybe a little tougher to get through. So matter of choice. The other thing we're proposing to do with the new official community plan when it gets adopted is to put it on the website in parts so that you don't have to open the whole official community plan and, you know, try and find what the pieces that you want to read. That, you know, if it's the economic development section that you're interested in, you can click on that section and go to that particularly so that you can be specific about what it is in the document you want to refer to. And maybe that takes some of the length and depth and of the document, makes it a little more manageable. So part 4 is community policies, and this provides policy direction for key systems that shape community life, translates the OCP's visions, goals, and objectives into guidance on land use, infrastructure, services. And this is the section that incorporates the economic development, the agriculture, parks and recreation. So it's kind of the land uses for the area, for the district. And there were no major changes suggested as part of that section. So parts 5 and 6. So part 5 of the official community plan is what we call temporary use permits. These are like a rezoning for an individual property where it may not have been seen as being a use that people might want to support, but it's kind of borderline. And so what you do is you put a temporary use permit on the property, say for a light industrial use or a commercial use that you think might be problematic. It doesn't commit you to that use forever. It usually has a time frame on it, say 2 years, 1 year, 2 years. I think it's a maximum of 3 years, maybe 2. It can be renewed, but it is kind of like a test balloon for uses on a property. And so that gives council the flexibility that if after a year, the neighbors are up in arms and saying, this is the wrong use for my neighborhood and it's being problematic and there's parking everywhere. And council can go, well, you know, that was a nice experiment, but we're not gonna renew that one. And the idea is that if you get to a point where you've renewed it, maybe once or twice, that you then rezone it permanently, but it gives you that trial period. Section 6 is the implementation section, outlines the summary of actions in order to implement the goals and objectives in the policy. And there has been some criticism that this implementation section is, you know, going to cost way too much, take too much time. And I guess the qualifier for that is that each of these initiatives that are in the implementation section would, of course, have to come to council, would have to be budgeted for, would have to be part of a strategic plan. It's not that you're going to take every single implementation strategy and put them all in at once. You can cherry pick what it is you want to work on each year and put it into the budget and work towards it. So these are like suggestions as to which initiatives you can take on to try and implement the vision. And then in section 7, part 7, sorry. Yes, there we go. Sorry, I'm going on my presentation here and yours is, I have to go back and forth. So there are, I'm not sure how familiar the committee is with development permit areas, but we have sort of three strategies for deciding on how development should happen in the community. With development permits, you can look at hazard areas. So you would, if you were on a steep slope, or you were in a floodplain, or if you were in an area that had, there were dangerous situations, we have hazard development permit areas. So you'd have to get a development permit, say for a steep slope site. You would have to do a geotechnical report to determine how you could develop on that property in a safe manner. So the development permit is a way that we as staff can review development in these hazard areas and make sure that that hazard is being mitigated in the application. So that's one type of development permit. Another type of development permit would be like an environmental development permit. So for lots that are next to streams and creeks and lakes and on the shoreline of the ocean, those are determined as being environmentally sensitive areas. And so you would need to get a development permit application in order to build in those areas where there's environmental sensitivities. And we'd have all kinds of criteria that you would need to match in order to develop in those areas. There's also development permit areas for form and character. So we have form and character design guidelines for the downtown core and for commercial and industrial uses. So how we would like those developments to look and to make them kind of fit the character of our community. And there's also a development permit area for sustainability and greenhouse gas emissions reductions and energy efficiency form of development. So we have 8 development permit areas in the draft official community plan. And we thought that is more than we had previously, but we've broken it out into finer categories than we had before. So we kind of lumped things in together in the previous development permit areas, and now we've kind of broken it out more. One of the major changes we made to this section was added in.
Chris, can I quickly intervene?
Yeah, sure.
Tony has a
Yeah.
quick question.
It's just a clarifying question for the rest of the committee. I already know the answer to this one, but what's the advantage for the users of breaking it down into further subcategories? To the outside, it's like you have more DPAs, that makes it more complicated, more onerous, more difficult. Why would that not be the case? I know the answer, but could you please explain that?
Yeah, because there are lots of exemptions that we've incorporated into this official community plan, the draft. And so if you have things lumped all in, then it's harder to create exemptions that fit that whole lump of categories. Whereas they're like for environmental or hazard, the exemptions for the downtown core form and character might not be relevant to the hazard areas. So by breaking them out, you can be more specific about what's exempted and what's not, and be more specific to the type of development that's happening. And it means that you may not have to do a development permit. So for instance, in an environmental DP area, we're saying that if you have an environmental professional do a report that identifies that what you're proposing to do fits the environmental sensitivities of the area, or you're mitigating it in some way, then you don't need to get a development permit. So it's providing opportunities for us to reduce the number of development permits that are going to be required.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, what this means is that in the past, you would have had to gone through a whole checklist. And if you were getting a DPA, you would have to do a geotech, this, that, the other thing. And there was no easy way to say, no, you don't really have to do that or that or that or that. This now allows developers to basically only have to do what really applies to them. The previous system didn't really allow that, and so it's terrifically onerous. I think I remember Al saying that when he wanted to put in a door or something, he was asked for a land survey. Is that right? Or something along those lines. It's like interior renovation on the house and I have to do a land survey. What the hell is that all about? So this new system would actually allow that sort of thing to be streamlined much more so with more flexibility for everyone involved. Anyway, it's just there's a lot of misunderstanding around the increase in the number of DPAs.
When?
If someone, when the OCP comes out and it's a commercial zone, like but it's residential commercial, is that going to change where we had to go through a development permit that was interesting and a rezoning? Will, if it says, like, let's say Goodmere Road area, anybody that wants to develop along there, and do they have to go through that process again still
Yes.
with the new? So
So
if it's
it-
zoned commercial, you still have to rezone it?
No, you have to get a development permit, and in
Yeah.
that case, it would be for form and character, presumably.
Okay,
So it's to ensure that whatever's being developed fits within the character of the community and meets the goals and objectives that we're trying to meet. I mean, this really simple example of, a form and character design guideline is, right now we have these malls that are set way back from the road and there's this sea of asphalt and then a sidewalk and then a road. So it's not a very attractive place for a pedestrian who's walking down the street to have this sea of asphalt on one side and a road on the other, and they can't even see what's in the commercial. So, a design guideline would be to bring that building up to the sidewalk and required it to have fenestration that, is attractive for pedestrians and animates the street and the sidewalk and makes it more pedestrian friendly and that kind of thing.
so for large developments, that totally makes sense, but what I guess I'm referring to, people ask me, because we're the business that's zoned commercial in a residential area, that the first OCP was supposed to be residential commercial. So when somebody wants to buy a house along there, will they have to rezone as well as get I think a development permit's always gonna be there, but for small individual, that block was supposed to be like artisan or other areas of Sooke have houses mixed in with some commercial. Will they have to go through the rezoning?
So, two approaches. One is that if a property isn't presently zoned, so the official community plan may designate that on that street there could be commercial allowed
Yeah.
or mixed use. But if the property isn't zoned that way, they would still need to rezone it. But when staff go to do that, process that application, we look at the official community plan, and the official community plan does designate it that way. So we go, yes, council, this is something we as staff recommend because it fits the long-term vision of the official community plan. And so that's how the official community plan provides the direction for the rest of the steps, right?
Because it was sort of a hope for other small businesses that want to purchase their property, that it wouldn't be quite as costly or timely because of the rezoning and the development. But
So
that's just feedback, and it holds people back.
So through the chair, the other option the municipality has, council has, is to do what they call pre-zone
Right.
things. So you could say, we've just adopted this new official community plan, and that official community plan has identified these particular areas as being commercial or industrial or multifamily. So rather than make every property owner one after the other go through that process, we're going to pre-zone. So
Yeah, so
now
could help
that might be against some people's desires, may not want to be zoned, but I guess you provide the option and you say, okay, we're going to make it easier for people to develop this area, and we're going to pre-zone it as per what the official community plan has identified.
Chris, Scott.
Yeah, I just had a question, Chris, as well about the part 5, the temporary use permit. And by the way, I really appreciate the way that this has kind of been broken down and the fact that you can, as you were mentioning, pull out those pieces and not make people do a whole bunch of things that is not necessarily, or go through a lot of steps that, that's that bureaucracy side that I always talk about. But with the temporary use permit, I also think that's a great opportunity for Sooke to take a look at these maybe home-based businesses or other businesses that may fit within that community plan, but it's not actually zoned for it. It gives a lot of control to the city to take a look at it, as well as obviously the neighbors that are in the area. So I think it's a really good opportunity for Sooke, as well as some business owners that I've already been in discussion with that I think would like to take that opportunity. And then I just wanted to mention as well about the pre-zoning. I know that's been brought up as well. I think probably our first or second committee that we had, that I think there are some properties that Sooke could take a look at and help with those owners. We've identified, I think, a couple of them in that discussion. And I think Sooke could maybe take a look at that with discussion with those property owners to see about getting those properties to a sellable state, because a couple of the ones we've identified have been on sale for 15 years. And that's a huge tax base that if we were to develop another hotel or something on these properties, that I think we're really missing out on. And I think we could probably spend a little effort to work with those properties that you can identify and go, hey, maybe the wonderful team that we've got set up here can go and engage with that property owner and really take a look at how we can maybe pre-zone that property to make it fit for the unknown. Because I'm always talking to developers, for instance, that are coming to our community, and it really comes down to the bureaucracy side of the unknown and how long it's going to take. Can I rezone it? Can I do this with the property and all that? And I think it'd be great if we could say, hey, with this particular property, such as we identified Sunny Shores, for instance, you can do these things here. If you bought this property, it's all zoned, it's all been ready to go. Maybe there's some fees involved to have those answers identified, but they're already there. There's no unknown for that property to be bought and developed, unless they change the zoning and have to change the development permits that are in place. But I think there's a good opportunity for us to identify at least 3, maybe 4 big parcels that are here in Sooke that have been, let's say, sitting there vacant for a long time, that tax base can be pulled out of. So.
Okay, Scott. Yes, Tony.
Just wanted to follow up that later on in this meeting, we're going to be discussing the employment land strategy. And I suspect that that will be a good place to be looking at, getting that strategy in place, identifying those parcels, and then maybe having further discussions on pre-zoning. Because I think there's talk of trying to get, monies, like I think it's Reddit, or enough money that we could actually, instead of actually saying to our staff that's already working full bore to get done what we've already told them to do, get someone else to actually do some of that pre-zoning or whatever it is that ends up being what we want for an employment land strategy, which is what we're talking about. So I think that there's going to be some really good stuff to talk about just a bit on that.
Okay, Chris, onwards.
Yeah, and just to play devil's advocate on the pre-zoning thing. So there is obviously, well, maybe not obviously, there is a lot of
Yesterday's example.
Of opportunities for the community to ask for things at rezoning. Basically, you can ask for anything at a rezoning stage, and not that you want to limit development by asking too much. But yesterday we had an example of, in our Trails and Parks Master Plan and in the vision for Lot A on Wadham's Way, we have identified that we would like to see linkages, pedestrian linkages between Lot A, south of the library where the park is, west to this neighboring street, and east to the neighboring street, so that pedestrians can just walk in to the Lot A park area, as opposed to having to walk up their street, across Autumn's Way, down, just to go 2 feet that way. So if it's already pre-zoned, then they're just getting a development permit. We lose that ability to negotiate those amenities that we might need or want in the community. There's, for instance, during the rezoning stage, we ask for affordable housing contributions as part of the rezoning application. So again, you're giving up that ability to ask for those amenity contributions as part of there is an idea, or, you know, the economics of the situation is that if a property goes from, say, a single family lot to a mixed use commercial, multifamily residential potential property, that there's a lift in the value of the land going through that process. And so municipalities pretty much across the board say, well, the community should take a portion of that lift as for the community. Like, why should the developer gain the full lift and the value of the land? And they could just flip the land after that. They may not even develop it. But just by going through the rezoning process, their property goes from 100,000 to worth 500,000. And so why should that developer, just for going through that process, get 400,000 extra dollars? Why shouldn't the community benefit from that? So anyway, just to say that it's an easy thing to think, oh, let's just pre-zone everything, which makes it easier for the development community, yes, but it does reduce our ability as a municipality to negotiate things through that process.
Chris, I don't want to dig too deep here because time is running short. We have Gail's remarkably newsy report to come. However, just in the pre-zoning, could we not ask on a site-specific property, okay, we want an access corridor here, and that's part of the pre-zone. That's a condition of pre-zoning. Wouldn't that be? No?
Anything's possible, but oftentimes when you pre-zone things, it can be like a chunk of properties, you know, and so it's, yeah, if you can identify it ahead of time, I guess that you can do that. But I'm just saying, just across the board, because you might say, okay, everything that's designated in the official community plan as commercial, we're gonna pre-zone as commercial, and all that would happen is all these lots would go from yellow to red on a map, right? Which doesn't seem like a big deal, but it has lots of implications in terms of infrastructure, traffic. You know, there's a lot of things that don't get considered in a large sort of swath pre-zoning of properties.
Al, our council appointee to the OCP steering committee, who did such good work to get us to this stage. Thank you, Al.
No, I'm very pleased with the way staff is handling going forward with this OCP. I was just going to comment about, we were talking about pre-zoning, and we had a case yesterday where we wanted an access route to lot A. And if we pre-zone it, that all those properties have to have an access route, it's just overkill. So it's better off to deal that on an individual basis rather than you pre-zone everything and you put in a restriction that each one has to have an access. Then if you look downtowns, and I think there's 8 properties or maybe 10 that are all have those narrow little lots. And if we do that to each and every one of them, it's hard for them to consolidate it. So be very careful about pre-zoning. So I agree with our staff that just go easy on that. We have to really know what we're doing when we do that. That's all.
Okay. Chris, I would like to also ask Christina to give us a quick update on the engagement process in the next month, these next coming weeks. Chris.
Yeah, so I do have a slide here that I'm just sort of jumping ahead here. That speaks to the next stages in the, there we go. So the proposed engagement plan builds on, as I said, what happened a couple of years ago, and the new housing legislation. What we're trying to do is educate the public as much as possible through 2 open houses, one in person and one virtually. We have offered out to various interest groups in the community, and certainly a open to people here. If you want to have staff come and to a meeting that you put together of interested, economic development people in your community, happy to do that. And we're meeting in person with developers in the community, the Sooke Business Association next week, to get their input on things. And so, like I say, we've put out the invitation, the offer to other interest groups in the community, not to favor any one group over another. So if you go back to your respective communities and say, hey, let this opportunity's there, then we're happy to provide that information to you and get your input. So just to provide you with some dates. So we have an engagement website. So that Christina has done a great job of putting together, and that provides all the background information, the red line version that we've put together so far, a clean version. So any advertising, any public engagement opportunities. So anything OCP update related is on that Let's Talk section of the official community or of the District of Sooke website. So we have an online survey that starts today. I guess it's the 3rd today. Yes, it is. Okay, starts today, 3rd to the 21st. So that's something else you can take back to your respective communities that's available now online to fill out. We have a development community meeting September 10th from 3 to 5 p.m. And then the open house is happening on September 14th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then
That's a Sunday,
That's a Sunday,
10 to 3.
Yeah.
Community hall.
At the community hall, thank you. And then we have a virtual open house September 17th from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And then we've done already a number of community pop-ups in which we went to the farmers market, Whiff and Spit, the pavilion just off the roundabout in downtown, the Thursday night farmers market, the Saturday morning farmers market, and we provided people with some information and a card that had, the ability to get what do they call that? QR code to get the information on the official community plan. So in terms of next steps, we've prepared a clean version of the redlined changes, which we're taking out to the community. Once we finish this next couple of weeks of engagement, we will be doing a what we learned report, which we're getting our consultants to help us with. And then we'll make any further changes that came out of that what we learned report, and then it will be brought back to council for we're going to have to how do they call it? Undo second reading from the past, repeal second reading, do a new second reading, set a public hearing, and then we can proceed with the adoption of the bylaw. And we're shooting for the end of December as being the deadline. But it sort of depends on how much toing and froing there needs to be in terms of the suggested changes. But yeah, that's the goal.
Okay, Chris, thank you very much. Christina, anything to add? Any sense of early feedback? Is there fatigue over the OCP at this point, or what's your feeling?
I'm just that we're trying to make it as accessible as possible. So to maybe reiterate and emphasize what we're sharing today as ambassadors in the community to encourage people to participate. The online survey is available 24/7. We actually got it out ahead of schedule. It was released on Sunday, which was great. And surveys have come in. There's hard copies. If anybody needs a print copy, they can contact us at the office. We can provide the print copy as well. And then there's that The open house for in-person on Sunday, September 14th, will take place upstairs. For people, anybody listening with accessibility concerns, there is a lift available in the hall as well, and it's a nice large space. We will also have print surveys and tablets as well at that open house event to just really make it as accessible as possible.
Okay. All right. Councillor Beddoes, Al.
Chair. The federal committee meeting September 10th, 3 to 5. Are not included writing of that, or is that a staff?
That is the meeting with the development community. It's an RSVP thing. We're trying to limit the numbers in that meeting just because it's in person, so we're trying to make it not too unwieldy. If a councillor wants to attend, I'm sure we can include you. Yeah.
Okay, but as it wasn't necessarily council was to attend, only if you're interested enough to go and be abused, then you could go. And I like generally leave those abusing things to you, so, but it's interesting, yeah, but I might sit in on that, but, put me down.
Okay.
Okay, Christina and then Tony.
Sorry, and just one more to add, anybody interested in attending the virtual open house at letstalk.sooke.ca/OCP. It's also linked at sooke.ca right on our homepage. There is a link to register, so you need to pre-register to attend that virtual open house. So just to note that as well. Thank you.
Okay, any comment?
I'd like to thank Chris for all the work he's done. And I would point out that when he went on at length about how it's, there's a lot of graphics, it's still quite long, people wanted more clarity. One of the people who was loudest on this was myself. I have now recognized that OCPs in general are quite long. Maybe it's the nature of the way that they're integrated into websites and the electronic back and forth and so on and so forth. But a short OCP does not seem to be even a remote possibility. Having said that, I know good work has happened. I did at one point ask if there was some possibility of having a short form. And I've been extremely impressed with what you've done today. So essentially, in your presentation to us just now, bringing it down to little sections, this is what this section is about, this is what's changed, this is what this section is about, this is what's changed. In a lot of ways, I think that's exactly what the community needs to see to basically orient themselves through it. And I see Christina nodding, so chances are that's going to be part of everything anyway, and I didn't have to mention it, but it is excellent work, and I think it needs to be shared with the community that way.
And I just want to not take any credit because Jaden and our previous senior planner did the lion's share of the work. And so I want to give them their credit where credit is due.
Yeah, and credit to the OCP steering committee and the consultants and Matthew Powell, your predecessor, and his team. So as I said at the outset, there are these very specific policy and action areas related to the committee's work. Under the CED actions, for example, you'll see there's a desired policy statement, action statement to modernize regulations for home-based businesses, signage and wayfinding plan for residents and visitors, a potential CED reserve fund, high street emphasis in the town center, employment land strategy, et cetera. And as the updated version very clearly states, this is going to be contingent on annual budget resourcing and staff resourcing to make these things happen. I also just wanted to quickly say, in terms of public engagement, our OCP has had, I believe, 2,000 touch points. Langford just completed its process. Langford's now a city. One of the I watched their OCP adoption meeting, and apparently there's a population of 58,000 in Langford right now, and they had about 800 to 1,000 touch points in a population four times our size. So, and I think your budget survey has just come back with over 1,500 responses. So there's a culture of engagement here in town, which did not exist 7 or 8 years ago, 5 years ago. So all credit to the district for that. Okay, so that is that. Thank you very much. report.
Thank you. I think what I'll do is just go through my report and the various projects first, and then we'll go back to the committee recommendations. So the district of Sooke is advancing several major initiatives that deliver on council's CED priorities, as outlined both within the Economic Development Strategy and Action Plan and the 2024-27 Strategic Plan. These projects that I'm working on aim to strengthen local business vitality, increase employment opportunities, and foster sustainable growth through a lens of climate resilience, equity, and community well-being. A new project that has presented itself to us, which is something we've been working on for many years, is the district of Sooke has finally been approved by the provincial government to fall into a new zoning category that allows us to apply for the regional economic diversification and infrastructure program. We have made many attempts over the years by writing letters to government, the provincial government, asking to become eligible, and kept getting no. This year, they created that new category, and the answer is yes, we can apply. Deadline is October 31st of this year. However, and this is a very important however, when I talked to the ministry staff at the Ministry of Jobs and Economic Growth, the old JEDI, the new JEG now, they made it very clear. They said, although you're now eligible to apply, it's not going to be easy. We're always overprescribed, and there's just not enough money to go around for everyone. And the fact is you will have to demonstrate without any question whatsoever that your project will rise up to the top by meeting our directives for the ministry and our criteria. One of the directives is to work in cooperation with our First Nations communities. That said, Chris and I had the opportunity to meet Bonnie Hill about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, who was a land steward with the Sooke Nation. I asked Bonnie if she would find it of value to meet with the district of Sooke to discuss this REDIP grant program and see if perhaps we could partner together to go after an employment land use strategy, which has been on our books for many years and not happened. And it is one of the highest priorities within our action plan. And when I asked her, how does that fit with the Sooke Nation? She says, I'm all over this. She says, we have exactly the same needs. We want to identify our lands, the best use of our lands, to create jobs, to keep our people in our community, to keep them off the road, going back and forth to other communities to go to work. And so we have established a meeting date. I may have to adjust that because all the people we want to attend this meeting are not available, but it will happen in the very near future. I would say it was set up for the 8th, which is Monday. I may have to move it to later that week or early the next week. But the fact that she's agreed and she will be inviting whomever she thinks should come to that meeting from the Sooke First Nations to sit down with the district of Sooke, which I would love to have Chris there because it falls right within his planning and development department's action plan. I want Jaden there. I want me there. I would love to have Rachel Gray there because this is the first time we're going to be able to significantly move forward on this. There is a lot of dollars at stake. We can be asking up to $100,000 to have this employment land use strategy application put forward. And with the strength of being in partnership with this First Nations, it would garner more weight for us and for the Sooke. Not only would it do that, it leaves now, if we were able to do that and put it forward as a joint application, if approved, it opens the door to allow the district of Sooke and the Sooke First Nations to now become eligible for iced funding. And the only way that can happen is the executive director, Brody Guy, with Ice-T. He and I had a conversation on Thursday last week, and he said, Gail, if you could make this happen, I personally will come down to that meeting. I personally will write letters and take them forward to the provincial government to advocate for South First Nations and the district to become eligible for iced funding. And that opens up a whole new ballgame for us. All sorts of projects we've wanted to do and haven't been able to do because we don't have the money. So that's the report on the Regional Economic Development Diversification Infrastructure Program.
So before we move forward, any questions to Gail at this point? No?
I
Oh,
was,
Catherine?
I don't have a question, but I do want to make a comment that the bridge plan now makes much more sense to go forward with putting forth that gesture to Sauk Nation and strengthen that relationship. So thank you to everyone for supporting that motion.
I also broke down in my report, which I'm sure you all read, what is a land strategy? And if, does anybody have any questions about what is an employment land strategy? Because my friend here, Chris, can answer.
Yeah, I could quote that. The employment land strategy ensures the district is well positioned to respond to employment land needs by considering future trends, projected demand, land supply, municipal services, incentives, and other tools to support future growth and economic changes. And of course, you already have a request for proposals for an employment land strategy that the previous CED committee considered. So that's part of the larger package. So we're ready. Absolutely, aren't we?
Well, I think we'd have to review it again and tweak it, and I am really hopeful that we can partner with the Sooke, and because it would be so powerful to bring it forward that way.
Chris?
Just as an example of how that land strategy would be used, for instance, so right now, the existing official community plan says that prior to any rezoning prior to the creation of any new industrial land in the district of Sooke, there has to be an employment land use strategy developed. And about 6 months ago, I had a property owner come forward for a property on the east border of Sooke along the highway, saying they wanted to rezone their property to an industrial property. And that, this met all the goals and objectives of the district of Sooke, and, let's bring it forward. And I said, well, we don't know how it's going to be serviced, how the traffic's going to work, how, like, whether that's the right place for industrial, what kind of industrial we need. Like, there's a lot of question marks, and that's what this land use strategy is gonna, provide us. Like, they'll do the demographics and the demand and say, okay, so for a community of this size with these goals and objectives, this is how much industrial land we need. This is generally the area that it makes sense to put it. And the same with commercial, so it's identifying the need and generally where it makes sense to put that. And so that's how you then can evaluate these one-off, like, oh, I want to put industrial here. And I think it makes complete sense to put it there. Then you can look at your employment land use strategy and say, oh no, that's not where we've identified as being
Hmm.
the right place for this kind of thing. So
Yeah.
anyway, just as an example.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. My next item under my report is the municipal and regional district tax implementation process. So effective November 1st, 25, I think you're all aware that we'll start collecting the MRDT from all of the accommodators that provide overnight stays. We expect, because November and December are very slow months in an off season, I don't think we're gonna see a huge pot of money rolling in. And we won't see it until the end of the first quarter of 26 anyways. And again, those are slow months. So I don't want anybody to get up and say, is that all we're getting at the end of quarter one? Because we're talking slow months. I think where we'll see it'll take all of 26 to get a really good picture of what we will be able to generate from the MRDT for 26 and by season. So the one other thing I wanted to point out that's very important for people to understand, council and the committee and the general public, is that the fact that we were approved to start collecting the MRTET was based on an application we put forward. It had a 1-year tactical plan and a 5-year business plan. Those plans that were incorporated into that application is what got us approval. So whatever we said in the tactical plan and the 5-year business plan, we have to follow. It doesn't mean to say that some things can't be tweaked a little bit, because it can, but you'd have to go forward and ask permission and various things. So we're going to have to stick with the plan and just I think that after the first year of 26, we'll have a very good idea what we might need to ask for, some changes of money here, there, or wherever for the rest of the 4 years. And then at the end of every 5 years, we have to apply again to be able to continue to collect. So I think that we're on a really good path here.
I guess just to emphasize. Oh, sorry. Just to emphasize the, because we're collecting this money doesn't mean that we can just start making up things that we want to spend money on. There are, and again, there's a little wiggle room, but there were very specific things that were mentioned that we would be spending the money on. So we have to stick to that. And so, and again, not to say it's like black and white, but we can't just start, oh, I think we should spend it on this, because the temptation will be there. Well, we've got all this money. Let's just start spending it on these other things. So, yeah.
So committee hold back, right? Just park those brilliant ideas. And in time, as the money rolls in, Gwen.
Is it possible to see that proposal, like what you've?
Yes,
Or is that-
absolutely.
is that
We have a
crossing a
1-year
boundary?
plan. I thought I had included it in one of the previous, maybe it was to council, not to this committee, but
To
yeah,
council.
I'll make a note.
Went to council. Wouldn't it be good on the next agenda to have just a quick review of
Oh,
those
yes,
two
I can
documents?
certainly do that. And it'd be appropriate timing too, because my next point about the MRDT is that we would not have been successful were it not for the diligent work that was done by 4VI or Forever Strategies, which used to be called Vancouver Island Tourism. And they worked with me day in and day out for over a year on this. They have been successful in doing this with about 5 other communities on Vancouver Island, and all those communities were approved. So now it comes down to the fact that now we have to hire an outside consulting agency that has expertise in knowing how to do the MRDT reporting and tracking and various other things that go along with it. So there's only about 3 organizations that I'm aware of that would have that expertise. Would be 4BI, Forever Strategies, Destination Greater Victoria, and maybe an offshoot of Destination BC of some sort, maybe a consultant that works for them. After long conversations between Rose, how do you say her last name? Lau? How do you say Rose's last name? Leo. Oh, sorry, Leo. That's all. I saw Rose. I didn't see it down there. After conversation with Rose and Chris and a number of others and the 4BI group, we are saying here today that we intend to do a direct award. Now, it's well over $10,000, and the protocol normally is that you go out to RFP, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But considering the time frame in which to start this happening for November 1st, considering there's so few that are actually qualified to do so, and considering that they've have demonstrated how easy they are to work with and how dedicated they are to the district making this go forward. We would like to put forward through Rose an intent to direct award. Rose has indicated that that would be done. Let me see. Yeah, the finance department will post on BC bid and then notice of intent to direct award with Forever Strategies in September this month. It allows anyone who is in disagreement with that to come forward and state that. If that does not happen, then we can direct award. And what we had decided to do after discussion with 4BI is a 2-year contract only for approximately $200,000, of which $100,000 would be for each of those 2 years. $65,000 to $70,000 would be used to hire a destination development specialist that would reside right here in Sooke. So they would know Sooke and know our tourism industry. So it is a best practice to give public notice that the district will be directly awarding a consultant contract for program management, contract administration, and grant reporting for the MRGT. The contract will be effective from January 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2027. So 2 full years there, and will include an option to negotiate for renewal. And the reason for this is we just don't have the staff capacity for me to do all of that work. It's going to be a lot. So being realistic, we want to go and hire the best we can hire as soon as we can, because we've got a very short window here to make this all happen and make it done well. And the other thing I did state earlier was if there's any organization that wishes to object to the decision, they're required to contact the finance department, Rose, by a specific date that will appear in the notice of intent to direct award, and present specific reasons for their objections. If they do that, it's going to change things up a little bit for us. We don't know until we go out and do it that way. So just wanted to make sure you're all clear. This is what we intend to do.
We must be sensitive about this. Tony?
Through the chair to staff, I'm just curious if the decision to make a direct award was contested by someone else. Would it not be at the discretion of council to say we're doing a direct award because this was a tight deadline and we needed to get it done and it was a prior relationship? So this is not a place where discretion of the council trumps policy?
Through the chair, we have to think about the hierarchy of legislation, like above council, above local government is this trade agreement.
Hmm.
So the threshold is 75,000. Yes,
So this is not council policy. This is,
this is
Yes, I know.
above you.
thank
yeah.
you. Perfect.
And Gail, you're going to tell us about this hiring of a local destination development specialist as part of, is that going to happen early next year or?
It would
Work
happen
with
in
TBI?
January, I believe, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
There are a couple of individuals that reside here in Sooke that are more than qualified to be a destination specialist in our town or area. If 4VI were the one to take on this contract, they have a few people that they've identified that live within this area. So I don't know who it is or who they're suggesting at this time, but I have an idea.
Yes, Al.
Wouldn't that be up to the contractor? I mean, they're tasked with looking after that. They're to be the one that do the hiring. It wouldn't be us. would it?
No, it would be the contractor
Yeah,
and they would
yeah.
do the hiring.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah,
And do you see this individual developing the capacity after 2027, the end of this 2-year contract, to take on the work full time? Because I believe this Forever is very much focused on capacity building and governance training and all these good things.
that's right. The way I think the way we want it to work is that we will lean on 4VI initially and the contractor they hire to work right here in Sooke. And that contractor they hire right here in Sooke would work very closely with the Sooke Region Tourism Association. And through that development, I would like to think that within that 5-year business plan, that the Sooke Region Tourism Association would then be eligible to hire a full-time person working for them to lead that. That takes it away from the district Sooke. And I mean, it would be always a collaboration, but it takes the capacity and job duties away so that it's not all falling on us.
Gwen, yes, as a CERTA board member.
So this job, well, for VR and who, is it part of marketing our town? Is that in the
Yeah,
job
it
description?
includes marketing.
Because that's where we struggle with volunteers and board members is,
It's a huge part of marketing, actually.
yeah,
It's significant
Yeah.
and they're experts at it.
yeah.
And so they're hiring people that are experts at it. So a big part is marketing. It's helpful. Also, money can be used for infrastructure development, signage, all sorts of things. But we have to follow those plans.
To keep people in beds, we need more marketing.
Yeah.
That's where we're getting our money from, these hotels.
Are there any more questions on the MRDT at this time? Okay, I'll bring up one last project that we're working on as the Sooke Region Business Services Cooperative. There's going to be a name change, and that was just approved today. It will be called, let's see if I got it right. Oh, Shoreline Business Services Cooperative. And it will have a tagline of Sooke to Port Renfrew. Shoreline Business Services Cooperative. And recently, I used some of my budget dollars to hire a local consultant with a legal background and a very strong marketing business background to help us get over the finish line on this, because it's been on the go for a little over 2 years. And so JP Elson was hired as a direct contract because it was under $10,000. It was a $7,000 contract, and his specific duties were to, number one, we were actually what's the word I'm looking for? We hadn't had our AGM, our first year AGM, so we were in non-compliance of the Society Act. And I wouldn't have even known because I kept thinking, well, we're not operating, so it can't be. But the minute you incorporate, it's 1 year after that, and you have to have an AGM. And we're incorporated. So AGM is coming up in September sometime towards the end, and that'll be very quick. There's not much to tell or to show because we have no finances or anything, so it'll be quick. And the other piece he's working on right now is getting a partnership agreement signed off by the various potential partners that I've been mentioning to you throughout the last couple of years, such as Van City, Enterprise, Women's Enterprise Center, Business Development, DBC, and various other, I think there's futurepreneurs, indigenouspreneurs, there's a whole slew of them. So once we've got that all done, then we intend to have our official launch. And we're expecting to have that done before the end of this year. And what that will mean is it will be located as a open door location at WorkLink BC. We're going to go after some funding through Pacifican to hire a person to be the dedicated employee for the cooperative. So people could come in, they'll get an opportunity to discuss their business ideas, plans, or the needs and wants. We'll match them up with the right partners, and potentially the business will develop. Then we've also got a brand new website that's almost ready to be launched. Marketing materials, everything else is all in the process. So it's all aligned so that we can do our AGM, and hopefully we can show at the AGM our website, which is moving really fast. And then everything will be done by the end of the year and will be launched and open for business. Yes.
More of a comment. Obviously, SBSC is not much of an acronym in terms of trying to string it together into a word for marketing purposes. Is it just Shoreline you'll be using, do you know, or? And I have it may be late in the game to make a name change, but I actually think Shoreline Navigation or Shoreline Business Navigation Services, the Shoreline and Navigation would really work well. And given that it's actually steering people towards services, it would.
They did a business name search, and we went over a number of different names various times. And Shoreline, it was not attached to a business services. Shoreline Business Services was not attached to any other industry type.
No, I love Shoreline.
There are other shoreline businesses, but not as a business service cooperative. But I agree with you. That's what we struggled with initially, calling it Sooke to Port Renfrew Business Services Co-op. Creepy long name, hard to market, hard to brand. So it will be Shoreline, and I think it might be Shoreline Business Alliances.
Gotta get an ABC in there. Okay, leave it to you. It's cool. Okay.
Anyways, WorkLink has a really great marketing team behind them, quite a few people, and they're all putting that together, and that's their cost share that they're putting in.
Okay, good work, Gail. So we'll be hearing more about this
Yeah.
unfolding, and you have a fourth item on your
I
agenda
do,
with
I saw that.
this exciting Wanda Fuca first cross-border tourism corridor strategy.
Yeah. So it's now this we've been working on that for a little bit over a year, but it's initially, we started off with the Wandafika Tourism, business, tourism plan, because we had the other one was from 2008. We took that, we launched it with Destination Canada and got funding to do a cross-border, which gives us a much broader marketing area between Highway 14 on this side and Highway 112 on the Washington State side, because we're so similar in everything that we have to offer geographically and visitor economy wise. So the consultants have retitled it Traveling the Bioregion. They consider this whole big map area of Highway 112 and 14 the bioregion. And I've given you a snippet of information, very short, an executive summary. It is still draft. It is not for public distributions per se, but it gives you a really good idea that this isn't just a tourism strategy. It's an investment strategy, identifying potential tourism development products and services, of which it includes potentially multimodal transportation through electrified ferry services, linking bike trails to connections that have been, for example, the Galloping Goose Trail disconnects before it gets to the downtown Sooke. So a part of that would be linking that. And so it does include the multimodal transportation. Where am I going here? E-bike infrastructure and rentals. There's also an interesting business in town that links into that very well. And then the Marine Center. And thank you, Scott. He's been speaking with our consultants with regards to the Marine Center and providing some feedback. But it is seen that if we were to develop a Marine Center here in Sooke, it would be in a very, I guess, well-attended attraction. It also is information sharing. It's learning more about marine ecology and protection. It involves education. There's one on the other side on Washington State that does very well. They've done research on others down in California. So this is another potential investment opportunity. All of them carry the fact that you're going to have to find the money. But I see it as being more P3 type opportunities, private, public money coming in to support it. And so with that, we're looking at additional investment business development opportunities that might include, but not limited to wayfinding arts, culture, and heritage, Indigenous tourism experiences, and tourism support infrastructure. So, and they've broken down the implementation timelines in that executive summary that I provided you. The intent is to table the final report at the end of September. It may be by mid-October, but no later than that. And so we'll have all of that work all coming together at the same time. So that brings me to the committee recommendations. Is there any questions on that?
But hold on, any questions? Scott?
I just wanted to comment that, yeah, I've been involved in that project for the last year, and Gail, you've been awesome at spearheading all of that information that we've been collecting and going towards. So thank you for all of that, because I think it's a great project for Sooke. And I just wanted to touch base on the idea a little bit as well, is and this again is touching on the collaboration that we're trying to engage with the Sooke Nation, that I think a Marine Educational Center is a great opportunity for Sooke, but I think to make it very unique is actually mixing the cultural heritage of the Sooke Nation and the natural history that is here to be able to have them tell their stories that they want the public to know. And again, I have been engaged with the Sooke chief and I've mentioned to him this project. And again, it just goes back to that sort of ask, are you interested in a project like this? And I know that Gail's also going to be in contact with the Sooke Nation, and hopefully that process is starting to engage in that partnership that we were just talking about, you know, with the whole bridge idea as well. So yeah, just wanted to mention, I think it's a great opportunity for Sooke, but also a great opportunity for us to build a relationship and a partnership, economic development partnership with the Sooke Nation as well.
Thank you. Tony?
I just wanted to note that we also have other assets in the community that could probably be linked in, things like the salmon hatchery. We have other pieces that, you know, could be connected, and a marine center could actually do some good work. There's actually some excellent literature and models in terms of shoreline restoration, where instead of actually insisting on this or wanting landowners to do this particular thing, it's more of a community-wide education, getting the community on board with the ideas of the benefits of actually doing shoreline restoration, what that involves, providing supports for shoreline restoration. And I think a marine center, if that sort of thing happens, it'd be a great place to anchor that sort of activity and actually have it all synergize really well together.
Yeah.
Because that's been a concern with things like, you know, 30-meter setbacks and who knows what. But it's much easier for people if they really understand what's going on, and if they're wholeheartedly approving what's going on, to just do it themselves and get on board, as opposed to being told you got to do it. So I think there's a place where we, instead of being prescriptive, we can educate. And I think that a marine center that actually links these different pieces together would be a great way to do it.
That's very correct, Tony. The other thing that is important to know is that because we've come this far with the planning, we've now established a standing steering committee that is populated by individuals from both sides, Washington State and from South Vancouver Island. Very qualified people within the destination development industry. There are First Nations representative on the Washington side. We have yet to, no, that's not right. We have now got an Indigenous representative from Indigenous Tourism BC on the standing committee, which was really great to get. So and Scott, Scott, are you on that standing committee? Yes, you are. There's a few other people involved as well locally, but the biggest hurdle we have to cross right now is the structure of that steering committee. We've got enough people that are on the steering committee as directors. They want to have a chair. And they've asked me to do that, but I feel I cannot do that with the work I'm already doing, because it will carry a fair amount of work with it. So I've recommended to them that they consider having dual chairs. Chair from the Washington side and a chair from the South Vancouver Island side. That's still to be determined. So right now I can honestly say that we haven't finalized the top position and who will do it, because it's a volunteer position. And we all know that that is not going to be something people are going to volunteer for, because it's too much work. So we have to identify where the dollars are going to come from. And I'm insistent that the dollars have to be equal from US side and the Canadian side. So far, it's being pushed that it's the Canadian side, but no, I think it has to be cost shared equally. So we'll see how that's going to happen.
And those dollars will go to a paid administrative position?
Yes, to carry,
heavy lifting.
to ensure the implementation happens and to support these identified potential projects to make them a reality. Because there's a lot of work attached to this.
Okay, Gail, thank you. We have motions on the screen here. Who would like to make this motion? Someone other than Tony? Gwen? would you like to make this motion? Please read it into the record.
Apologies, just for clarification, each motion should be done separately.
Gwen, would you like?
Is that the one?
Yes.
Right up here, good.
Yeah. That the Community Economic Development Committee make a recommendation to council to direct staff to apply to the Ministry of Jobs and Economic Growth under the Rural Economic Diversification and Infrastructure Program for a grant to support the development and implementation of a local employment land use strategy.
Okay, seconder for that, Councillor St. Pierre? Nope, it's good. Okay, all in favor? That's a yes.
That the Community Economic Development Committee recommend to council to direct staff to post a notice of intent to direct award the contract to Forever Strategies for the management and administration of the municipal and regional district tax.
Okay, seconder, please. Councillor Beddoes, Al has done that. And part three, all in favor? That's a yes. Lee, Catherine as well. Oh, you're voting against this. Who you are? Okay, you must be voting for it. Kind of strong in this voting against this. So we have part three. Who would like to move this?
Yourself.
Al.
Okay, the Community Economic Development Committee received this, that the Community Economic Development Committee received the Community Economic Development Action Plan status report for information. Thank you.
Seconded by Catherine Strongwind. Okay, all approved? All right, so. Item 6, and this was just an opportunity to. On the mic. So this is a discussion of how committee agendas are prepared and guidelines for how members can submit arising motions and new notices of motions. Sorry.
Would you like to do
Oh, that was
roundtable?
item 8 is,
We could do roundtable now and then go
Okay,
back
let's
to this
do it.
item, or?
thank you. Let's start on that. Roundtable, starting to my far left with Gwen. Nothing to report. That's perfectly fine.
I just wanted to know if it's all right, if I put together a letter to send out to Deb at Chamber and Tourism boards to share the survey. That's what you're looking for. So if I can get our members, we can go through those avenues. Okay,
Please, yes.
that's it. That's all I can.
Yeah, thank you, Gwen. That's exactly the point of today's presentation, was for us to spread the word. So thank you very much. Catherine, any comments?
I just want to, I have a couple of things to mention. One is we had to move the September 15th rather, movie screening to the 16th because of the opening of the new Health and Administration building at Sooke Nation. So we're now having that on the 16th. So you're all invited to join us to that event. The 29th is also a film screening in Langford. And then on the 30th, there's a community event here at John Phillips Park, which a number of organizations in Sooke are participating on. So we again invite all of Sooke Council and staff to join us that day and observe the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. I wanted to ask a question about the last meeting. We had a motion to regarding updating the economic development strategy and action plan. And forgive me, I have not been at council meetings over the summer, so.
Well,
and we didn't
Catherine, in
have one.
fact, we haven't had any council meetings
Right.
since that. So I believe maybe on Monday night in the consent agenda, that motion will be appearing. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe there was two CEDC meetings that did not make it to council because of council not being in session for the month of August. And so any items pertaining to our last two committee meetings will be brought forward.
Great, thank you. And I also, maybe that includes the discussion about the green business conference.
No, it doesn't. So can we park that particular item and we'll hear from Nancy in the next item and yeah, okay. Tony, any comments?
Just to repeat very quickly, really happy with the tour that happened of the efficient plant. I think there's huge opportunity there. Unfortunately, I was forced to miss actually the SIP patio mixer, which was an opportunity to meet with a lot of other local government representatives and do the kind of networking that is so critical and that fortunately Gail stepped in to do for us. And it should be noted at this point that SIP has been recognized as one of the top 3 tech dev organizations in the world. So good work happening around here.
Just to let you know, Dana Lajeunesse did show up.
That's funny.
Okay, Al, anything to say? No, Scott?
Yeah, I just wanted to let Gail know, we talked last meeting about a young entrepreneur program. I know you've been working on that with Work Link, I believe it is, that you've been discussing. I went to the banks and talked to the managers of the banks, and they are very interested in that project. And Coast Capital actually already has a young entrepreneurial program that they do as far as education and stuff goes. So I just thought I would direct you those cards and those contacts so that you can make, and hopefully they can get in contact with you as well and be part of that program. Because I think that program is important, that we're basically, what we're trying to do is take away a lot of the unknowns for these young entrepreneurs. And again, a young entrepreneur could be 70 years old. It's just being a new entrepreneur, let's say. So taking away from like, hey, how do we deal with banks? So I've suggested to the banks that maybe they can create some sort of grant program for young entrepreneurs to waive the bank fees for the first 6 months or maybe even a year. Again, it's just to get that conversation going with the banking community, because it's, again, that's a big unknown for somebody that's never dealt with the financial side of their business, and they'd be a good group, I think, to chat with. So.
Thank you, Scott. Actually, that's excellent information because it fits perfectly in with the Shoreline Business Alliance. We're going to be offering education and workshops and everything else. So it's a huge piece to get the banks behind you, because they're the ones that will open the doors for the young entrepreneurs. And if they can come up with some new policies that have lower thresholds for accessing loans, that's wonderful. So thank you for that. And I will have JP Elson contact Coast Capital here in Sooke as well as Van City. Oh, perfect. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Scott. I'll just note that I attended the Heritage Row block party last month, and that was fascinating and fun. And, you know, there was family entertainment, there were bands. Gord Phillips played in the Cafe Vizino patio. There was a power outage. There was all sorts of excitement. Sooke Radio was there broadcasting for as long as they could. And I think the next year they hope to do it again, this time backed with an event micro grant, right? Potentially from the Chamber of Commerce, if they so choose. Also, the Sooke Fall Fair went ahead this year in its new incarnation at Fred Milne Park, and that was remarkable amount of work went into this reconfiguration. So Lisa Nielsen pulled that off really well, and combining the car show. So it was I don't know what their attendance was, but I think they did quite well. 1,000 more than last year, yeah, okay. And Al was there with the Lions, of course, as they were at All Sooke Day, slinging hot dogs and. And then I think the other big news is the country market moving to Woodside Farm, starting next year. Yeah, that's been announced, and I talked to some of the vendors on Saturday. They're all very excited. There's so many good upsides here, the higher profile location, room for vendor growth, because they're sort of straining at the seams up here.
Could we build a senior center there?
Oh, there's another subject. Better parking, there's ready access to water and washrooms. And I think that there is potential here for it. And the key thing is it's Sooke's historic farm belt, right? That is the oldest operating farm, continuously operating west of the Red River, apparently, west of Winnipeg. And it is, so I think there's great long-term growth. And the key point for them is they can stick and stay in this location because it's been a bit nomadic, and there are plans to improve the sidewalk up here. And so I think they're very delighted from what I heard. So bravo for that. And of course, our Lot A, Charette did identify a market space within the public plaza on Lot A, and that too can still remain a viable option for a town center, smaller market, or year-round permanent market with vendor stalls. Who knows? It's all possible. Okay, so that's the end of the round table, and we'll now deal with this awkward little next item, which is not awkward. It's rather central to the ability of this committee to raise motions and bring business to council. And while recognizing that as a standing committee, we are a creature of council. This is the first standing committee in Sooke, distinct from a select committee, which has a different sets of guidelines, since 2014. So we're sort of relearning the ropes, and Nancy is in the center of all this. We had a motion came forward or a recommendation for an input to the agenda for today came from Catherine. Tony and Catherine came up with a really substantial resolution motion regarding the Economic Development Corporate Commission or Corporation, whatever we're calling it. Nancy, what are your thoughts on providing guidance to us going forward?
So I know guidance isn't always fun, but we do try to stick to some of the rules and policies. And so that's why I just wanted to flag the committee on that. So although I have received a few inquiries from council members, also from committee members and from staff as well, asking for clarity on how the agenda items come to the committee. So certainly there are several questions, so it's great that we're trying to hash this out. So just a little bit of context, as a standing committee, the CDC is advisory in nature. It's as stated in our terms of reference, but it's also part of our committee structure and function policy, which is defined that a standing committee is an advisory body to council established by the mayor. It quotes sections of, the community charter and such, but that's where the advisory portion comes from. And so this coming in, the policy also makes it clear that under the authority and role of that policy, that the committee's function is as an advisory body to council and does not have independent decision-making authority, which we understand, which is why our motions go back to council for recommendation. And so that is fairly clear. So the role of the committee is to review staff reports, submissions, proposals, and presentations, and make recommendations to council on matters relating to the committee's mandate. And so as much as some of the items coming forward are certainly within the terms of reference. It's that it's a point in time as to where our council and staff bringing it forward. And so that's the piece that's a little bit gray. And that's where, with all of that in mind, my current understanding is that the agenda items for the committee come forward either through council referral or through staff reports based on previous council direction. And so that's why we just halted for this one particular, well, the two questions, the notice of motion and then the additional question from member Catherine Strongwind. And so that's where I just thought we need to step back for a moment to see what is actually appropriate. And so having said that, because I wasn't involved with this committee from the inception, I'd like to confirm a specific process back to the CAO to ensure that it aligns with how it was previously set up. And so I just want to make sure, and she's been away on holidays, well-deserved. And so she will return. And so that's where I'd like to have that discussion because I think there's still an opportunity for us to bring it forward. This is only at this point a possible proposal that I just want to make sure that the CEO and the mayor are in agreement as well. But I believe one mechanism would be that ideas are shared with the chair. And being that it's a standing committee, we structure our standing committees to have at least half be council members. So by that way, the chair will have an opportunity to bring it forward to the CAO, and the CAO has context as to this might be an item that's coming up on a future meeting anyways. And so it's, and then it can be diverted to that meeting and or the chair could bring forward to the regular meeting to council a notice of motion on behalf of the committee, basically sussing that out so that then the council has opportunity to weigh in. The CAO also has opportunity to weigh in as to staff capacity as well. So there's a lot of items to think about, and I don't want to make that unilateral decision. I only go by policy and what, is in front of us. And so that's why I just, first wanted to caution we're advisory in nature, and that's why the flow comes from council and via staff reports, and that's how it flows through. And then we provide feedback and recommendations from that. But I still want to have the opportunity to discuss that further with our CAO and potentially through the CAO, the mayor. And then from that, before the next meeting, I'd like to provide some context as to what that decision was and if this is how we intend it to flow, and then I'll send it out to all of the committees that we're all clear on what it was.
Well, thank you, Nancy. I'll just quickly recapitulate what you've just said. So you will go away, you'll meet with Rachel, and Jessica will be back as well. Jessica won't be back.
So I'm currently acting as corporate officer. Our corporate officer is currently on leave for another portion of the month. And so
Okay, so you
until
check
then,
in with Rachel,
Yes.
and you'll be reporting back to us at the next meeting. And in the interim, if anyone here would like to have items on the agenda, please reach out to me via email, and I will, because I do get to attend the agenda setting meeting. And at that point, we can determine how best to proceed. But items are welcome. And I know Tony and Al are eager to speak, but I'm still speaking. So, and having said that, I got nothing more to say. I'm always trying to stand up to these guys. Okay, Tony. How about that? I went to Tony first. Is that okay with you? Okay.
It's similar to what our chair was. So we're looking for clarification. That clarification will come after a conversation with the CAO. But right now, what's being considered is a meeting between an item is brought forward to the chair. The chair meets with the CAO and perhaps whoever else. And at that point, it's decided whether it's going to go to a regular CAO, perhaps back to the CDC directly, whatever it might be. Is that correct?
That would be correct. I'm not sure if it would come back to the CEDC directly. I think it would still run through council, but that's what I want confirmation as to if that's how they want it to go through. I think that we need to utilize the chair so that we can have a way of sussing out, because there's also other pieces that come to agendas that we might not all be as council or aware that it's forthcoming. I'm not even aware of everything that's forthcoming. And so we just want to make sure that we utilize staff's time as well, in an appropriate manner. And as well, we also want to be cognizant that being as it's advisory, we want to make sure that we're not bringing things forward to council or sussing out in a committee what council isn't deeming a priority just yet. It might be part of the terms of reference as a whole, but they may deem that it's, they want us to be looking at other items first. And so that's something else that I want to suss out with the CEO and the mayor and such. And so with the help through the chair is where I'm thinking that that is an opportunity to do that before we say, yes, let's add it to this agenda. It may be parked for another agenda, just when, I'm not sure.
Tony, a follow-up?
Just to follow up on that, and we had a long conversation yesterday, so you're probably well aware of some of the things I might just say now. I think also in terms of staff capacity and so on and so forth, and making use of their expertise, we also have experts on this committee that bring subject material expertise specifically for ECDEV. And as such, I think it's well worthwhile to consider sending items directly to ECDEV if once it's been considered by this CAO, by the chair, by corporate services, and all the people who know exactly what's going on in the organization and what the best place to park it might be. I think this may sometimes be the best place to park it because we simply have more of the ECDEV expertise and know-how and can make the best determination as a recommendation to council. But I'll leave it at that. And thanks for listening.
And of course, we on council have the opportunity to make a notice of motion at a regular council meeting to direct whatever we wish to the CED committee. Al?
I'm a little astonished that we're at this point because this has all been hashed out before this committee was formed. This is exactly how it is supposed to work. The direction comes from council and staff for us to review these certain things. If there's things arising that we want to have discussed, you go to the chair has the meeting with the CAO and the mayor or the staff, and then it's brought forward. But this committee does not run council or staff. We assess the things that are put before us, and that's why we need your expertise on this. So when it comes to like the OCP, then you get to comment on it. But when it comes to us making notices of motions and things like that, it has to go through staff and the CEO first. And that's your job as chair to do that. So on that roundabout way, you said exactly that in the end. That's exactly how it is supposed to work. So if you have this committee, anybody on this committee has a wonderful idea that they'd like to bring up, then you go to Jeff and Jeff brings it forward. And if staff and council's representatives say that that's a direction that we want to go, then that's a direction we go. If it's not, then we go on to the other business. But we've got to make sure that, who's driving who here. And we are at the discretion of council, and staff is at discretion of council too. We've already laid that out. So I'm not so sure we need to reinvent the wheel. If you want a clarification, that's fine. But I think to me, it was pretty clear to begin with, but okay.
Thank you for that expertise. And I think that's, yes, as chair, please funnel things through me. And I'll also just thank you very much for your enthusiasm and the eagerness to get good work done in the community. So I think that's where things are coming from. We're keen to get going, and we've managed to get this extra meeting. Thank you for that motion. So we're monthly. We've achieved a lot of business. The last meeting we went through 7 notices of motion to council. Today we've again progressed, overseeing this amazing work being done by district staff. So thank you again, great work all. So we're time to adopt, to adjourn. So moved by Councillor St. Pierre and Councillor Beddoes, second. All in favor? There we go. Okay.